What's up, gentlemen? This is Rising Phoenix Podcast, a podcast about how to rise up after your divorce. I'm your host, divorce coach, Michael Rhodes. Let's get into it. Well, thank you for joining me today, Anthony. Why don't you just jump right into it and tell us a little bit about yourself?
All right, yeah. My name is Anthony Pluff. I work as, actually I have a few different jobs. I work primarily I work full-time as a elementary PE teacher. And then I train clients in person part-time, and I also train clients online, specifically dads who are really trying to just kind of fit fitness back into their schedule. When you have kids, it makes it a little bit more difficult. So I really like kind of focusing on this population and just kind of helping them kind of integrate into their life without kind of feeling overwhelmed.
Gotcha. All right. Well, let's talk about if a guy hasn't been to the gym maybe ever, and this is his first foray into it, what should he be doing? What kind of plan should he be following? What exercise should he be hitting? All that kind of good stuff.
Yeah. The first thing I would recommend is talk to somebody at your local gym. Talk to a trainer. A lot of trainers, it can be intimidating to come up to them and ask questions, but we really do like to help people out. Yeah. So I think this is the biggest mistake a lot of people make, is they try and learn everything on their own. I like to preach form over weight. So if you can't handle the weight, you're not doing it correctly. You shouldn't be adding weight every single session, things like that. So focus on form first, and everything else usually takes care of itself. If you've never been to the gym before, you're not familiar with different exercises, I think it's not a bad idea. A lot of gyms will give you a couple free sessions to work with the trainer. Yeah. And like I said, it can be intimidating, especially if you've never been there before. Yeah. But most trainers, at least the ones I've worked with, all really good people. They want to help you. They're there to help you. So if you just take those free sessions and you never sign up again, at least you learned a little bit in those few hours you worked with them, and it can really start you off on the wrong foot rather than going by yourself, possibly getting hurt, getting frustrated because you're not knowing what to do, things like that. So asking a lot of questions, just starting with the basics really is probably the most important thing.
Gotcha. And what kind of schedule would that look like, do you think, for someone that's just starting out? 3 days a week, 4 days a week?
Yeah, I would say for most people, whether you're just starting out or you're trying to just fit it into your normal life, really 3 days a week is usually a pretty good. It's realistic. It's something you can usually stick to. 45 minutes to an hour. You usually don't got to spend longer than an hour. Now, if you're training for something specifically, right, obviously you're going to put a little bit more time into it. Just like anything, if you learning a new language or something, you practice it 1 day a week, you'll probably learn a little bit. But if you practice it 3-4 days a week, you're going to get better a little bit quicker. So I would say three days a week if you can fit more in. I think that's good, but I like to just kind of always start out a plan for 3. If I get more, great. If I can only get 2 in 1 week, 3 the next week, 1 week I can go on the weekends both days or something like that. Just try to average that about 3 times a week.
And what kind of splits are you doing on those 3 days? What kind of muscles are you targeting?
Yeah, usually, especially if you're new or you're just trying to stay into shape, I try and do full body, more compound movements, focusing more on things like squats. If you don't have weights for like a bench press, push-ups are great. You can do them anywhere, which is awesome. So if you can't make it to the gym, you can do it at home, do it over lunch, things like that. I would focus more on big compound movements that require more muscles rather than doing things like bicep curls, lateral raises, things like that. Those are great. Those are great accessory work. But if you only have time for 30, 45 minutes, I would focus on more of the compound lifts first.
Okay. And what kind of sets and reps for those?
Yeah, I would say, obviously, if you're just trying to get back into shape a little bit, we probably stick to the probably 10 to 12 range. 3 sets usually is pretty good. If you're just starting out, it's not a bad idea to only do 1 or 2 sets to kind of get used to it and stuff, and kind of slowly progress from there. If you jump right into 3-4 sets the first couple times you're going to be pretty sore. You're not going to want to go back, and that's what we're trying to avoid here, trying to make it more of a routine. So we'll probably can stay away from the 3 to 5 rep range. This is more going to be for our strength building, which is fine, but it's also more taxing on your body, so it takes a little bit more time to recover. And then if you're going for more just endurance, so it'd be anything like higher than 10, around 15 reps, anything higher than that. I honestly like to avoid this as well. Since we're only going 3 days a week, we don't have necessarily, we're not long distance runners. We're not going for specific endurance goals, I guess. I like to go more for just building a little bit more muscle, and that's also going to help with the weight loss and just keeping it long term as well.
Gotcha. So in terms of someone returning that, like myself, I spent a lot of time in the gym when I was in the Navy, and that was, I don't even know how many years ago, way too fucking many. And then I decided once she left, excuse me, I decided once she left to turn my dining room into a gym, and I started hitting the free weights. But I followed a plan, but I kind of felt like I could just jump right back into it. Obviously there was a bit of my body had its own learning curve, but what kind of recommendations do you make for someone in that sort of scenario?
I would say definitely start slow. It can be exciting, especially this time of year. New Year's is coming around. Weight loss is a pretty common goal for a lot of people, and they jump right into it, and which is fine. A lot of people, you can actually lose weight, gain muscle fairly quickly, especially if you're just starting out with it. But the problem is it's usually not sustainable. So if you go from never working out to all of a sudden you're working out every single day for 2 weeks straight, you're probably going to lose weight. You're doing a lot more activity than you normally do, but life gets in the way. Life doesn't usually slow down.
No, it does not.
So that's probably something that you're not going to be able to maintain every single day. You said you've got 2 kids. When you're with your kids, you're probably not going to want to work out or be able to work out. You're doing things with them. So
well, even if I do get time to squeeze it in, they usually want to work out with me, which is great in a way, but it's also I'm picking up free weights. Like there's not a lot a 6 and 11-year-old girl can do in that realm. But you mentioned weight loss. Let's sink into that one, because that's important to everyone. I've since she left, it's been about a year and a half or so. I dropped a lot of weight, and that was just because of initially just because of not eating. Like I think I went from like 220 down to 200 in a matter of like, I don't know, a month and a half or something, maybe 2 months. It was pretty dramatic. But I was fucking depressed. And then I started working out. At this point, I'm back up to 220, but I'm in smaller pants. So I definitely have put on some muscle mass. So in terms of weight loss, what's the best plan to maximize weight loss? Not necessarily just muscle gains.
I would say overall, it's probably not the answer you're looking for, but it really depends. It depends on your eating preferences. I don't like to, and I've tried a bunch of the different, more of the fad diets, I guess, mainly. So I get, my clients like to try them. They like trying keto, paleo, things like that.
Right.
And so I will do them myself so I kind of know what they're going through and stuff. Sure. And if you can stick with it, pretty much any of those plans is going to help you lose weight. So keto is really big right now, so I'll talk on that one.
Okay.
But keto is essentially you're limiting your carbs. You want to get into ketosis as your form of energy. Supposedly it's more efficient. We won't get into all of that. Right. But so you're cutting out carbs, and it kind of makes it as like carbs are the enemy.
Right.
Well, carbs actually have a lot of benefits for the body, help regulate hormones and everything like that. So, and I mean, you look at bodybuilders, things like that over the years, all these diets come back around. Like Atkins keto, pretty much the same thing. They're just kind of rebranded a little bit.
Right.
A lot of these things, like if you can stick with it, then I'm not going to tell you not to do it.
Right.
I think that's the hardest thing, though. I see with a lot of people, what I get a lot is, I did really well this week, but then I went out with my friends on the weekend,
Yep.
and so now I'm starting over again on Monday.
Right.
Well, if you're consistently starting over again every Monday, you're probably not going to be able to see the results you want long term. So
Right.
I like to recommend just finding something like eating whole foods, including fruits and vegetables, trying to always be in a slight calorie deficit. And from there, you're going to be able to really see results long term. You may not be able to lose it as quickly, but when you lose it, you've now learned these new habits that are sustainable, and you'll be able to keep it off long term. The two biggest things I like to focus on is first figuring out your baseline calories, how many you need to eat in order to maintain where you're at. So if you did everything in a day and you ate poorly, but you ate at your calorie goal, you're gonna stay where you're at.
How the hell do you do that? Because I'd like to know.
Yeah, so there's lots of different calculators online that you can kind of figure out where it is. One of the easiest methods I use is you take your body weight in pounds and multiply that by 15.
Okay.
So that's going to give you your so let's say a 200 pound man times 15, about 3,000 calories a day to maintain. But you also have to factor in the equation activity level as well. So this is also factoring a little bit activity level. So if you go 2 weeks where you're walking a ton every single day, then you're eating at that level. You'll probably stay the same, but then you got to factor in if those next couple of weeks you're not moving around, you're probably not going to be able to eat that 3,000 calories. So multiplying it by 15 is usually a good, pretty good estimate. I don't like to have huge calorie deficits in order to lose weight. Like I said, I don't think it's sustainable.
Right.
If you're only eating 1,500 calories a day, you're going to get hungry over time. Eventually, you're going to end up binging over dinner or something like that, and then you're going to kind of lose that progress anyway. So usually around probably about 400 calorie deficit is pretty sustainable. You won't see just be shedding off pounds like crazy, but it's something that's pretty sustainable and your body can adapt to. So that's the first thing I like to do is I like to figure out the calories, figure out how much I need to maintain, and then go in about a 400 calorie deficit. And then I figure out my protein next. So how I figure out how much protein I need a day, the recommendation is usually between like 0.7 and 1 grams per pound of body weight. So let's go back to our 200-pound male. If you have a 200-pound, I keep saying male, but male, female is about the same recommendations here. But
Gotcha.
so 200 times 0.8 would be 160 grams of protein. So a 200-pound male, eat about 3,000 calories to maintain, needs about 160 grams of protein, which is usually a pretty good amount. And then for me personally, carbs and fat are equal. I take that as personal preference. With my clients, I don't tell them this many grams of carbs, this much amount of fat, things like that. I like to figure out calories and focus on protein, and whatever you have left with those calories after, it really, depends on what study you read or who you ask. It really, like, to me, and it also depends on the quality of the food as well.
Sure.
You're probably, if you're eating an avocado, it's going to be a little higher in fat and calories, but long term, it's probably going to give you more energy than the pre-boxed granola bar or something, things like that. So it's really personal preference as well. Try and focus on eating in that calorie deficit, eating more whole foods. Probably the less processed, the better. When you're at the grocery store, typically the outer rim of the store is going to be your friend when you get into the aisles. That's usually when you're getting into all the boxed foods and everything. So
Yeah.
that's probably where you want to spend the least amount of time. Not saying you can never eat that stuff.
Sure.
My wife is actually, she got her degree in bakery science, and she teaches culinary baking classes at the high school.
Nice.
So she's a great cook and likes to bake a lot. So like I eat the stuff regularly,
Yeah.
but just limiting yourself, trying to factor it in. And you don't have to necessarily track your food. Like I use an app to put my food in, but you don't have to do it every day. Once you get kind of used to it and kind of figure it out, you can limit it to like hand portion sizes, and that's a whole nother topic. But that's a good estimate on how much you can eat as well. And then once you kind of get in a routine with it, you can really kind of figure out what you need to do to maintain. The hard part is figuring out what you need to do to lose weight there. But
what kind of deficit you're talking? Eating in a deficit? How many calories are we talking? 500, 200, 1,000?
I like to go usually 400 is a pretty good amount.
Gotcha.
It depends on how drastic and how quick you want to lose the weight.
Gotcha.
So if you're let's say our maintenance level for the 200-pound male was about 3,000 calories. If you're eating at a 400 calorie deficit, that's 2,600. That's going to be pretty good progress, consistent progress. And over the month, you're gonna lose a good amount of weight there. Now, if we do 1,000 calorie deficit, you're gonna lose it much quicker.
Right.
It's also, you're gonna have probably a little less energy when you're in the gym. You may be a little bit more irritable throughout the week. When you're with your kids, when you're talking to your wife, things like that, like you might just be a little bit more on edge. So these are things I think that you need to factor in as well too. Obviously, if weight loss is the goal, you got to determine whether or not it's worth, I guess, the way you feel as well. The 400 calorie deficit, I feel, is usually a pretty good amount because it's sustainable. You don't notice. I mean, you will notice it a little bit, but if you eat 3-4 meals a day, you only take out 100 calories on each meal. That's pretty doable.
Yeah, for sure.
But now if you're at 1,000 calorie deficit and you have to take off 200 to 300 calories per meal, and that's a pretty significant amount of food.
Yeah, definitely. It's not sustainable. I would agree.
Yeah.
So you mentioned two things. What was the second one?
I don't remember where we're at there.
Me neither. We're talking about weight loss. I think we started with nutrition. Okay. And you talked about finding your calorie, what you burn a day, and less than that. And I think you said there was two things, I think.
Okay, yeah. The other side of the equation for that calorie deficit is going to be your energy activity, the amount of calories you're burning throughout the day. So if the food and your food consumption is definitely a big part of one side of the equation, but if you could also increase your activity as well. So if you're normally eating, let's say you normally eat 3,000 calories a day. Now you're in a 400 calorie deficit. Let's say you average 5,000 steps a day. Well, if all of a sudden you start walking 7,000 steps a day or 10,000 steps a day, that 400 calorie deficit might be closer to a 600 calorie deficit.
Gotcha.
So you may feel a little bit more hungry here too. So that's something you really got to play with as well. What I like to try and do, especially if you're trying to lose weight, is make sure. Well, actually, this is probably good advice for anybody. But before each meal, have an 8-ounce glass of water, probably 30 minutes before the meal. A lot of times when we're hungry, it could be dehydration. So if you drink that water before the meal and you eat slowly, eating slowly for each meal can also help your food consumption as well. So if you're eating between each bite, if you set your fork down, wait till you swallow, pick it back up. It sounds like a real pain, but you're going to be able to listen to your body's natural hunger cues a little easier, and so you may not eat as much.
Gotcha.
Definitely moving around as much as possible. I know, especially now, a lot of people are working from home.
Yep.
sitting in a chair all day long. If you're at the office, you're sitting in the desk all day long.
Yep.
Maybe just setting a timer on your phone every hour. Get up, walk around your house, sit back down.
Yep.
It only takes you a minute.
Right.
But if you do that 8-9 times a day,
right.
that's an extra maybe 200-300. It will add up over time. And now if you do that every single day, so that's also going to help you just increase a little bit more, increase your activity a little bit, burn a few more calories. And obviously, like if you're burning 100 extra calories a day, you're not going to be able to see great progress in the short term. But if you do this every single day consistently, we're looking 2-3 years down the road.
Right.
Like that's an easy way to kind of keep a few extra pounds off. If you change nothing else, everything else stays the same. You're just moving around a little bit more. That's an easy way to kind of get some more activity in. But
gotcha. How do you view fitness trackers? Like, do you think they're accurate? Do you recommend them? I have the Whoop bracelet, which I don't know if you know what that is. But I love this thing. Yeah. I'm not sure. I love it for sleep, but it also does tell me calories burned. How accurate do you think that is, if you know about the Whoop? And then on all the other ones, like, what's your view on those?
Yeah, I've never used the Whoop band personally. I had a friend that had it, and I see their ads all the time, so it looks pretty interesting. But you probably know more about it than I do. But as far as fitness trackers go, they're a good tool. The calories burned on those, from what they've done with the studies with like the Fitbit, the Apple Watch, the Whoop band, things like that, they're not extremely accurate, and a lot of them it varies depending on the brand you have. I don't think they're necessarily a terrible thing though, because it gives you, even if it tells you burn 3,000 calories today and you only burned 2,000 calories, as long as the band is consistent, then you're at least still getting, hey, I moved a little bit more than yesterday. Or things like that. So you're still getting a good idea of how much you're moving personally. The sleep I have a Fitbit, and I think the sleep one is fascinating. And I look at it every day to kind of see, and it's usually pretty good at knowing like when I wake up in the middle of the night, things like that. And it kind of gives me a good idea like how much I am sleeping, or my quality of sleep. I think quality of sleep is definitely probably more important than the length of time you're sleeping. If you're in bed for 8 hours and you slept 5, the quality is probably definitely good. The one thing I would caution on is with the bands, if I don't know if you use MyFitnessPal or anything like that.
I have in the past, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. This is a pretty simple and free tool to track your food. So this is what I use. What you can do on it is I hook my Fitbit up to it, or I'm sure you can do your Apple Watch, maybe the Whoop band, I don't know. But it will say you burn 3,000 calories, or you exercise that day, you did some more activity, it will give you calories back.
Okay. That's cool.
So say you're trying to eat 2,000 calories, you exercise, you're a little bit more active that day, it'll now say you have 2,800 calories for the day. What the research has shown on these though is that the bands do a really poor job at actually tracking that. So people will look at the app and say, oh, I have 800 more calories today. I'm going to eat those. I'm going to eat those 800 extra calories. And then they're confused in 2-3 months down the road while they're the same weight they were. What I recommend on this is you could actually go into MyFitnessPal, and on your log, you can delete the exercise. So it takes it off of there.
Gotcha.
So when you're adding your calories, so like I said, we're trying to figure out, you take your body weight times 15. This is already factoring in an average amount of activity throughout the day. So if we're also adding back, these calories, now we're eating way over our maintenance level, or we may be, maybe we did earn back earn back, I say, but maybe we did burn more than we did on a normal day. And so we could eat a little bit more, but usually what they found is that the activity trackers usually overestimate how many you get back. So I think they're really good for a lot of things. I've had one now for, I don't know, probably 4 years, and wear one. I think I've had 3 or 4 of them. They break, I go buy a new one. But I like tracking my steps.
Yeah.
That's usually I have no idea how many calories it says I usually burn a day. The only thing I really care about is my steps, because that gives me a good baseline level of how much I'm moving that day.
Yeah. And what do you shoot for? 10,000?
Yeah, usually 10,000 is a pretty good number for me. It's something that I can definitely get every single day. A lot of times I found I'm usually over it. But that's the bare minimum I like to get. And I found that that's a pretty good number as well, especially like on the weekends when I'm out of my normal routine. If the only thing I do the entire day is get my 10,000 steps in, I'm okay with that. Like that seems to be a good amount of activity and a pretty good, like, I guess, threshold to try and achieve each day.
Gotcha. Let's go back to weight loss and let's talk about, I want to talk about cardio versus weight training. What's more effective, more efficient to lose weight?
Overall, in the short term, cardio is pretty good. You burn a lot of calories while you're doing it. You can usually be more efficient. You're moving the entire time. You're running, or you're on the elliptical, or you're on a treadmill. You're doing a lot more activity than you are resting 2 to 3 minutes between sets on the bench press, or doing bicep curls. A lot of the muscles you use, doing biceps, doing rear delt, things like that, they're very tiny muscles. Doing abs, you're really not burning that many calories while you're doing it. So in the short term, cardio is usually pretty good. If you only have 3 days a week for 30 to 45 minutes, I would recommend you spend that time doing some form of strength training. Long term, you're going to be able to build lean muscle, which is going to help improve your body composition. It's going to help you burn more calories over time. And cardio, steady state cardio, and high intensity cardio, things like that, actually increase hunger. So a lot of times when you're doing, now if you're walking, hasn't really, the studies kind of show that walking doesn't, just brisk walking doesn't necessarily increase hunger. So if you're just getting your 10,000 steps in, you're going for morning walks, nightly walks with your family, things like that. Walking is a really good form of cardio, a good form of burning those extra calories. That's not going to increase your hunger significantly. But doing things like the treadmill, running on the treadmill, I should say, the bike, the elliptical, the stair step, or things like that. Yes, you're going to burn quite a bit of calories while you're doing this, but a lot of times people end up actually overeating and kind of losing that progress, and you're not necessarily building that muscle you would that's going to help kind of keep you lean long term. So if you only have, now if your schedule is available and you can do 6 days a week, alternating it's not a bad idea, especially if you're trying to get in better some better conditioning, things like that. And I'm not saying never do cardio. There's obviously a lot of benefits to cardio, but if you only could choose one, I would always lean towards strength training.
Gotcha. So let's say you had all the time in the world. Let's say you had a gym in your dining room, and you wanted to look better, not just, and I know that's probably a short-sighted goal, but it is what it is. So let's say that's your goal. You just want to look better. You want to be able to hit the beach and feel pretty damn good about yourself. What is the best split in terms of muscles? Is it 3 days a week? Is it 5 days a week? Like what's optimal?
It like I said, it really depends. If you have an hour each day, then doing an upper body, lower body split might be worth it. Might be kind of alternating that every single day. if you it really, a lot of the times it's not necessarily how many times you go, it's kind of what you put into that time. So
Right.
if you're and if you're focused on your legs, you're going to focus. If you have 5 days a week, you may want to focus 3 of those days on your legs. If you want to get work your chest a little bit more, you're going to have to put in the time on your chest. I like to do I like to split it up, kind of chest and triceps on the same day, and then always kind of end with a little bit of core. And I say core. I don't necessarily mean abs. I like to do. I actually had a pretty significant lower back injury when I was in high school, and so I've kind of dealt with that for a little over 10 years now. And so when I do core, I don't do. And most people would probably benefit from not doing crunches, sit up, things like that, because it's going to put a lot of pressure on your back. A lot of people don't do them with great form, so it may not hurt you today, but 10 years down the road, when all of a sudden you have this pain, you can't figure out why. Well, what you've done up to that point kind of leads to it. So I like to do a lot of core work, but also a lot of the movements I do, like when I was talking about the compound movements and things like that, you can make a lot of exercise. Pretty much everything involves your core. There's pretty much nothing you can do that doesn't involve your core. So a lot of times you don't need to spend, and your abs are actually a very tiny like compared to other things in your body, you don't need to put a ton of work into it. And if you're eating in the calorie deficit, you're burning calories, you're losing weight, you're at a low body fat percentage, and you're doing not necessarily just a minimal amount of work on your abs, but you're going to be able to see some definition, things like that. Gotcha. I think that's the hardest thing for people to kind of realize a lot of times. That I know I hear a lot. I'm doing all these crunches. I'm doing planks. I'm doing everything, and I can't see my abs. Why can't I lose the fat here? Well, you can't spot reduce. You're not going to be able to just do crunches and you lose all the fat around your waist and nowhere else on your body. So I think that's can be kind of difficult to understand. But yeah, just focus, kind of breaking it up a little bit. And this is just my personal preference. This isn't the right way to do things. This isn't necessarily what you should do. It's going to be different for everybody. But I like to kind of get my chest and triceps, a little bit of core work, some ab work at the end of my workouts. And then the next workout, I'll do shoulders, focus heavy on the shoulders, and then some biceps, and then do, like I said, a little bit of core, a little bit of abs at the end of each workout. And then I'll do a day where I just focus on legs. And so right now, my current routine is I just go 3 days a week. I go 2 upper body days and 1 lower body day. And then on the weekends, if I have time, I'll go jump rope or something like that. If a lot of what I like to do actually to kind of get a little bit of cardio in, to get some more movement in, is I'll go play basketball. That's something I like to do. It's fun. I can get a lot of steps in. I can go hang out with some people I don't normally get to see. So that's something I like to try and do. Or what I've done in the past is I've only had, when my schedule gets really busy, I'll make a plan where I do the same workouts or kind of focus on the same things, but I'll split each workout in half, and I'll do 20 minutes, 6 days a week.
Gotcha. And is that as effective? Because I've been considering that myself. Because typically I do, like you just described, chest tries, back buys, shoulders, legs. But I've considered, just because of time, and I got so much going on with the podcast, and especially this time of year, I got the kids and Christmas shopping, and you fucking name it, I'm busy. So I have considered, like, I'll just do chest one day, tries the next day. Is that effective?
Yeah. Like I said, it depends on what you're going for. It worked for me because I kind of, and I think this is pretty common with a lot of people, where you kind of get into all or nothing mindset. Well, if I can't do my hour-long workout, well, I'm just not going to do it today. And I'm just as guilty as that as anybody. So I would I'd like to do the 45 to hour long workouts 3 times a week, 4 times a week. When my schedule's not as busy, it's easy to stick to that.
Yeah.
But when you got things going on, I would go a couple weeks at a time without working out at all, or I would just work out on Saturday.
Yeah.
And I was maintaining where I was, I guess, but it's just difficult. And you think, well, in a couple months it's going to slow. It never slows down.
No.
Like it's not going to slow down. So just doing those 20 minutes, I found is pretty sustainable for me. And yes, you're doing it more days a week, but if you have 45 minutes for lunch, if you have 45 minutes in the morning, like there are more times throughout the day where you can fit in a 20-minute workout than you can a 45 to an hour long workout. And so that I've enjoyed that. And it kind of makes it, I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm getting better or worse results, but it's almost more like motivating sometimes because I can really just focus on one thing. Yeah,
and you're in and out real quick.
Right, and I get it in. I feel good. I feel good, and I try and allow myself 30 minutes, even though I'm only working out 20. Get some foam rolling in, warm up a little bit, then cool down. I don't do well if I don't get a cool down after my workouts.
Really?
I get really stiff. Okay. And the next few days I'm feeling it, and I'm regretting that I didn't spend those 5-10 minutes of mobility work after. So that's something I've noticed for me. And that's probably just years of working out when you're younger, not doing that.
Yeah.
And then because you feel great. You wake up the next day, like I can go do this again.
Yeah.
And then one day you just can't. But
it happens to all of us.
Yeah. So what I like to do is like, let's say I'm focusing on my shoulders, I'm focusing on the biceps, doing a little bit of abs. Let's say each of those, I don't know, 6 or 7 exercises total.
Yep.
I'll just split it in 2.
Yeah.
And then I'll do that like Monday, Thursday. And then my workout where I'm doing legs, I'll do that Tuesday or something like that.
Right.
And then my third workout, I'll do Wednesday, Saturday or something.
Gotcha.
And then I try and take at least one day off.
Yeah.
One day. But it worked pretty well for me. It can be a little discouraging, I guess, maybe that's the word. Just because like you don't feel like you're getting as much work in.
Yeah.
But if you're putting 20 solid minutes into 3 exercises, like you can still see great results. If you're eating properly, you're getting enough protein, you can still build muscle, you're still going to be able to lose weight. Like it's not necessarily now obviously if you're competing in a strongman competition, a bodybuilding, like you're going to need to spend more time in the weight room. But I would say for the average person, I don't want to say you could get away with doing this, but it's something that you can incorporate into, even if you can only do this 4 or 5 times a week.
Right.
Well, that's still
something.
Over an hour. Yeah, it's still over an hour of strength training compared to doing it never. You're still going to be able to see the benefits of it.
So let's talk about supplementation briefly. In terms of protein shakes, in the morning, before, after, when's the best time to consume those things?
Yeah. As far as the research goes, it depends on a lot of this. It depends on what you read. You could probably find something that validates your thinking either way. I think it's been a common belief that you need it within 30 minutes of your workout.
Right.
From what I've read, from what I've learned, this isn't necessarily the case. If you're getting it throughout the day, it doesn't necessarily matter if you get it right away after your workout. Gotcha. I usually try to. I try to drink a protein shake or have a meal after I work out because, and I usually have to wait a little bit. I can't drink it right away. Okay. I don't know why. I feel kind of like I'm not hungry, I guess, as soon as I get done. But if I wait a half hour, 45 minutes, I can usually eat. So I try to, and I also I just get a little irritable if I don't have food in me after a hard workout. So that I always try to before your workout. It can give you some good energy for your workout. I like avocados. Making a shake with avocados. Dates are good. Pretty heavy carbs, or a lot of carbs there, and so that's some good energy before you work out and stuff. Pre-workouts are pretty normal. A lot of caffeine and things like that.
Yeah.
But as far as like protein shakes go, I like to drink them throughout the day.
Yeah.
And I used to always mix it with milk. Milk hasn't always sat well with me.
Gotcha.
So I kind of found some alternatives, like almond milk, things like that. And that's a pretty good substitute. Coconut milk. I try and find the pre-workouts, or not the pre-work, sorry, the protein shakes with that tastes good with water.
Gotcha.
I found this is an easy way to kind of save myself 80 calories. Like if I'm using 8-ounce glass of milk or something like that, if it tastes good without water, that's an easy way for me to save a couple hundred calories throughout the day. So,
yeah, true. Good point.
But I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say just as far as protein shakes go, if you're getting your protein, if you eat a lot of chicken, a lot of lean meat and stuff, you're getting your beef, you're getting a lot of protein throughout the day. You don't necessarily need protein shakes. I like protein shakes. I like the taste of them.
Yeah, me too.
But if you're getting a sufficient amount of protein throughout the day, you don't need to spend your money on protein shakes.
Gotcha. All right. Well, any final last words of wisdom to anyone out there, either just looking to get into a gym for the first time or to get back in? Yeah,
I would just say it gets easier as you get going. Consistency is key to it. If you can only get in once or twice a week, it's going to be better than not going at all. Yeah. And start slow. Anything that you kind of jump into full steam, eventually you're going to kind of burn out. So if you can get in there, find a routine that works for you. Don't focus on what your best friend's doing, what your favorite celebrity trainer online is doing.
Right.
Find a plan that works for you and something that you can stick to, not just for a 30 or 60-day program, but something that you're going to be able to maintain over the long term.
Gotcha. And where's the best place people can find you? Because you mentioned you do some training online. So what's the best place for people to reach you?
Yeah, Facebook. If you can find me on Facebook, it should be Anthony J. Pluff. You can add me as a friend on there, or Instagram are the two main places, and that's A Pluff Training, APLUFF Training. And then I do have a website, and I have the link to that on my Instagram. So don't use the website too much, but it's just kind of more of a landing page. So
gotcha.
That's probably the easiest way. Yeah.
Great. All right. Well, thank you, Anthony. I want to thank you for coming on today and imparting your wisdom. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can do it again and maybe get some questions from the guys and try and help them out on their fitness journey.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Take care.
All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you so much for watching and or listening. Since my separation in July of 2019, I have done an incredible amount of work on myself. I've had many different therapists, life coaches, and went through different programs. I've taken all that I've learned and put it into my own program called Forged by Fire. If you are interested in having me help you navigate your divorce, please hit my website, risingphoenixdivorcecoach.com. I look forward to working with you.